Hi there. Question 4.3 ku IFRS 9 chart pack, specifically part C. All right. So at acquisition, we were told that the fair value of this liability, that is the post-retirement medical liability, the fair value at acquisition, the 31st of March 2004 was 2,800,000, and we're told that in February 2005 the fair value was 3,100,000. So the change in fair value, or the understatement of the liability, is 300,000. So if we remember, in IFRS 9 there is a measurement period that is 12 months or 1 year. It says if there is a change in the fair value that was determined at acquisition, and the change happens, or the information is available within the 12-month period after acquisition date, we make adjustments to whatever amounts that were recognized at acquisition. So I calculated the months from the 31st of March 2004 to February 2005, and then I found out that it's within the 12 months period. So we have to make an adjustment we amounts basis at acquisition when we were determining our goodwill at acquisition. All right, now these are the notes I prepared pertaining to this information. If the liability at acquisition, all right, the post-retirement liability was understated at acquisition, it means that the net identifiable assets at acquisition were overstated, because we're supposed to have reduced the net identifiable assets at acquisition by 3.1 million, but we reduced them by 2.8 million. That means we overstated them by 300,000. All right, let me calculate tax on this amount. So tax is at 28%. Okay, so it's 84,000, and after tax amount is 216,000. Okay, so we're supposed to have made an additional adjustment of this amount. All right, but we didn't, because we didn't have enough information at acquisition. Now this means the net identifiable assets should have been lower by 216,000. all right, so the net identifiable assets at acquisition were overstated by 216,000. Goodwill should have been higher by 172,800, which is this after tax amount, by 80%. The NCI at acquisition was measured at its share of net identifiable assets. So that is why we say the goodwill that we recognize at acquisition is only attributable to the parent. That is why we are saying goodwill should have been higher by 172, by we multiply this by 80%. NCI should have been lower by 43,200. So if the net identifiable assets at acquisition were overstated, we can say that the NCI was also overstated, because we calculated 20% of the overstated net identifiable assets. So that is why now I'm saying, because of the understatement of the liability, the NCI should have been lower by 43,200, which is 216 by 20%. So to show it in a general entry, we have the deferred tax that we should have adjusted at acquisition, the additional deferred tax asset with debit deferred tax, which is 84,000, and the goodwill, which was understated at acquisition, 172,800, this amount, and the non-controlling interest, which was overstated at acquisition, all right, is 43,200, this amount here. And the liability, we increased the liability by 300,000, this understatement here. All right, I think that one is clear now. If you have a question, you can send me a follow-up question. Okay, coming to question 19.9. 19.9, there was a rights issue by the company T Ltd, And before the rights issue, only S Ltd and the NCI held shares in T. So we are told that when T issued the shares, S subscribed for 9,000 and NCI subscribed for 6,000. So S held 60% and NCI 20%, but S then held no shares in T Ltd. Now, the rights issue given S and NCI rights to additional 9,000 shares and 6,000 for NCI, because it says T Ltd is issued a 1-for-1, a rights issue 1-for-1. That means for every 9,000 shares that S has in T Ltd, they are entitled to an additional 9,000 shares. And NCI ngokunjalo now, since any shares is 6,000, they will get an additional 6,000 shares. It's a 1-for-1. But now the information says, okay, S Ltd bought 2,000 rights for 2,000 and Ash bought 1,200 rights for 1,200 from the other shareholders. All right, so the information is telling us that in addition, S is entitled to an additional 9,000 shares, but S also acquired rights from the NCI, which is 2,000 rights. Okay, so in addition to the 9,000 shares that they are entitled to get, they will also get 2,000 which they acquired from the NCI. That means now NCI is no longer entitled to a total of 6,000 shares, all right, but they are entitled to 6,000 minus 2,000 which they sold to S. Now looking at this working here, as I said before, S is entitled to another 9,000 shares. It's a 1-for-1 issue, but they also bought rights from other shareholders which amount to 2,000. So they are entitled to a total of 11,000 additional shares now, which is this 11,000 you see here. Coming down now, we are told also that Ash, which is Ash Ltd, also acquired rights from the NCI, the 1,200 rights. So Ash is also entitled to 1,200 rights in T Ltd. That means Ash will buy 1,200 shares from T, which is this 1,200 you see here under Ash because of the rights issue. Now let's come to this 2,800. How did I get this 2,800? Remember that T issued a 1-for-1, meaning originally before S bought any rights from NCI and before S bought any rights from NCI, NCI was entitled to 6,000 shares. All right, let's come here. So the rights issue was a 1-for-1, remember. So T Ltd, which is the company, T Ltd issued 15,000 rights. So S was entitled to 9,000. S also bought 2,000 from the other shareholders, the NCI, and Ash bought 1,200 from the NCI. That means the remaining rights now is 2,800. All right, that means the other shareholders are only going to exercise or are only going to buy 2,800 shares from T Ltd. Or what's the other way of getting this 2,800? You know that originally, okay, originally NCI was entitled to 6,000 shares. All right, they sold to S 2,000. They sold the rights to H 1,200. So that means the remaining rights that the other shareholders can subscribe for is 2,800. So they will buy 2,800 shares from T Ltd. This is the 2,800, and then I calculated the total number of shares is 30,000 now. In T there is 30,000 shares in issue now, and S is holding 20,000 shares, which is the 9,000 original shares plus the 11,000 additional shares, giving them a total of 20,000 shares. And the other shareholders, they originally held 6,000 shares, but because they sold other rights, they could only subscribe for an additional 2,800 shares, giving them a total of 8,800 shares after the rights issue. And H Ltd only subscribed for 1,200, which is the portion they bought from the other shareholders. The total of shares they have is 1,200. Now, when I calculate the shareholdings of these companies in terms of percentages now, we can see that S now holds 66.67 of T Ltd, and the NCI is holding 29. This is the 29.33% shareholding by NCI. This is how you get it. It's 8,800 shares divided by 30,000 shares, the total shares in issue in T Ltd. You get the 29.33%, and H Ltd is only holding 4%. 1,200 divided by 30,000. I hope this explanation also helps. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. All right.